Last April, the United States bombed Syria after accusing its president of a deadly chemical weapons attack against his own people. Now, the UN body that investigated the incident is accused by one of its own of altering a report after being pressured by the US. WikiLeaks published a leaked email written by an unnamed investigator from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, or OPCW. Its author accuses the organization of misrepresenting the facts its field team found in the Syrian town of Douma at the behest of its general director. The email blasts the interim report that the OPC released to the public as disingenuous and calls it a major deviation from the original report. There are a lot of details to follow here, but this story has huge implications for international law. So here's a quick recap of the background to this leaked email. On April 7, 2018, the United States accused Syria of using chlorine and sarin chemical weapons in Douma, a suburb of Damascus that had been occupied by the Saudi-backed jihadist group Jaish al-Islam. Unverifiable videos surfaced claiming to show the immediate aftermath, in which more than 40 people were killed. These videos were shown non-stop in Western media outlets. Before any investigation could take place, the American, British, and French militaries launched about 100 airstrikes. Jim Mattis, then Secretary of Defense, admitted that the US had no proof that the chemical attack even happened or who might have been behind it.
I cannot tell you that we had evidence, even though we certainly had a lot of media and social media indicators that either chlorine or sarin were used.
The fact that the US illegally bombed another country should have been an outrage in itself. That it attacked without having any evidence to back up its accusations should have been seen as a monumental scandal. But as we saw in 2017 when the US attacked Syria under similarly murky circumstances, when it comes to bombing, the supposedly anti-Trump media establishment suspends all skepticism and goes full MAGA.
I think Donald Trump became President of the United States. I think this was actually a big moment.
I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons.
Besides, what higher authority gave the US the right to attack Syria in the first place? Well, the US has never cared much for international law and prefers to make up its own rules. When John Bolton was the Bush administration's ambassador to the United Nations back in 2002, he bullied the OPCW head Jose Bustani out of office because Bustani wanted his experts to inspect Iraq for the weapons of mass destruction the US said existed. Of course, that was a huge lie. The WMDs didn't exist. The very same John Bolton was Trump's national security advisor when the 2018 chemical attack supposedly happened too. The latest leaked email comes months after two other whistleblowers cast major doubts on the OPCW's findings. In May, one leaked an engineering assessment saying that the gas cylinders supposedly used in the Douma attack were manually placed. This meant the Syrian government wasn't behind the attack and indicates they were placed to falsely incriminate Assad, aka a false flag. And in October, a second whistleblower accused the OPCW of unacceptable practices, saying that key information and witness testimonies were suppressed in order to favor a preordained conclusion. In other words, that whistleblower said the OPCW cooked up the results of its investigation. 10 days after the supposed Douma chemical attack, an OPCW fact-finding mission entered the area with the Russian military providing security. In early July, the OPCW published its highly anticipated interim report. Among its findings, no evidence of sarin. That refuted one of the central claims the US government and anonymous intelligence officials promoted with the help of corporate media stenographers and experts.
In fact, Syria had used chlorine and sarin gas against its own innocent people.
Those are hallmark symptoms of sarin gas poisoning.
The interim report also said various chlorinated organic chemicals were found, but made no mention of levels. That's the crucial factor in determining if chlorine could have been used as a weapon, or if it was an amount found in mundane, everyday uses like drinking water or a swimming pool, or common household products like bleach. That omission fueled skepticism among close observers. Turns out, they were right to have doubts. The recently leaked email says the chlorinated organic derivatives detected were as low as 1 to 2 parts per billion, which is essentially trace quantities. The email also says purposely singling out chlorine gas as one of the possibilities is disingenuous, and that the term used in the report, reactive chlorine-containing chemical, is inaccurate. The email says the interim report used insufficient evidence to make claims about how the attack was supposedly carried out, omitted a section on inconsistencies in the victim's symptoms, and concludes that the interim version no longer reflects the work of the team. That pretty much puts to bed the theory of a chlorine attack and lends credence to the second whistleblower's claim that the OPCW tried to twist the evidence to fit a pre-established narrative. It gets even more suspicious. The newly leaked email was sent to the OPCW's then cabinet chief, Bob Fairweather, about 2 weeks before the report was released, meaning the OPCW knew about the complaints before it published. Just 2 days before the release, Fairweather reportedly invited several members of the team that wrote the report inside his office. There, they met 3 U.S. government officials who did not clearly identify themselves, but insisted that the Syrian government had carried out a gas attack. Sounds like another John Bolton-style intimidation tactic designed to bolster the U.S. government's justification for its attacks. Altogether, the claims from the 3 whistleblowers point towards something much more insidious than the U.S. just bombing a country because it wants to. The evidence points towards a false flag, a massive deception carried out by a fanatical jihadist group, the US government, and a Western media disinformation apparatus. From WMDs in Iraq, the Gulf of Tonkin in Vietnam, or the USS Maine in Cuba, the United States has a long history of false flags and war propaganda. Maybe we'll never see hard evidence that's what happened in Duma, but the OPCW has lost credibility, and the US is once again lying to its own people to wage war on a country whose crime is determining its own path.